Welcome to the Bible Quiz and Trivia channel. Today, we're tackling the profound depths of the Book of Lamentations with 30 tough questions that will test your knowledge on its themes of sorrow, hope, and redemption. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and like this video to support our content. After the quiz, share your score in the comments. We love seeing how well you do. Are you ready? Let's get started. Question 1. What is the primary literary style of the Book of Lamentations? A. Historical narrative. B. Poetic laments. C. Prophetic visions. D. Legal code. Answer B. Poetic laments. The Book of Lamentations is primarily written in a poetic style, characterized by its expressive and mournful laments over the destruction of Jerusalem. Question 2. How many chapters are there in the Book of Lamentations? A. 3. B. 5. C. 7. D. 10. Answer B. 5. The Book of Lamentations consists of 5 chapters, each a poem lamenting the fall of Jerusalem. Question 3. What major event does the Book of Lamentations mourn? A. The Exodus from Egypt. B. The fall of Samaria. C. The destruction of Jerusalem by Babylon. D. The division of the kingdom of Israel. Answer C. The destruction of Jerusalem by Babylon. Lamentations mourns the destruction of Jerusalem by the Babylonians in 586 BC, focusing on the immense suffering and desolation that followed. Question 4. Which prophet is traditionally believed to have written Lamentations? A. Isaiah. B. Jeremiah. C. Ezekiel. D. Daniel. Answer B. Jeremiah. Traditionally, the prophet Jeremiah is believed to have written Lamentations, reflecting his sorrow over Jerusalem's destruction, which he had prophesied. Question 5. In Lamentations, what is the city of Jerusalem compared to following its destruction? A. A barren desert. B. A widow. C. A flourishing garden. D. A bustling marketplace. Answer B. A widow. Lamentations poetically compares Jerusalem to a widow, emphasizing her isolation and abandonment following the city's destruction. Lamentations 1:1. Question 6. Which chapter of Lamentations is written as an acrostic poem? A. Chapter 1. B. Chapter 2. C. Chapter 3. D. All of the above. Answer D. All of the above. Chapters 1, 2, and 3 of Lamentations are written as acrostic poems, with each verse starting with a successive letter of the Hebrew alphabet. Chapter 3 features 3 verses per letter. Question 7. What recurring theme is emphasized throughout Lamentations about God's nature? A. His indifference. B. His wrath. C. His mercy. D. His absence. Answer C. His mercy. Despite the grim context, Lamentations repeatedly emphasizes God's mercy, suggesting hope and renewal are possible through repentance and faithfulness. Question 8. How does Lamentations describe the reaction of the neighboring nations to Jerusalem's fall? A. They mourned alongside Jerusalem. B. They offered assistance to rebuild. C. They rejoiced over her downfall. D. They were indifferent. Answer C. They rejoiced over her downfall. Lamentations notes that neighboring nations rejoiced at Jerusalem's fall, seeing her devastation as their gain. Lamentations 2:15-16. Question 9. What imagery does Lamentations use to describe the leadership of Jerusalem during its downfall? A. Shepherds who abandoned their flock. B. Kings without a throne. C. Warriors without weapons. D. Sailors without a compass. Answer A. Shepherds who abandoned their flock. The leadership of Jerusalem is criticized as shepherds who failed to protect their flock, contributing to the city's vulnerability and downfall. Lamentations 4:13-16. Question 10. What role does confession play in the Book of Lamentations? A. It is discouraged as useless. B. It is mentioned as formal duty. C. It is central to seeking forgiveness. D. It is considered irrelevant. Answer C. It is central to seeking forgiveness. Confession in Lamentations is portrayed as a necessary step towards reconciliation and healing, emphasizing the need to acknowledge sins and seek God's mercy. Lamentations 3:40-42. Question 11. How does Lamentations depict the impact of the siege on the daily life of Jerusalem's inhabitants? A. Minimal disruption. B. Increased prosperity. C. Severe famine and distress. D. Unaffected social order. Answer C. Severe famine and distress. Lamentations graphically depicts the horrors of the siege, including famine and extreme desperation, profoundly affecting the daily lives of Jerusalem's inhabitants. Lamentations 2:19-20. Question 12. What specific accusations does Lamentations make against the prophets of Jerusalem? A. They prophesied peace falsely. B. They encouraged rebellion. C. They stole from the people. D. They were overly cautious. Answer A. They prophesied peace falsely. Lamentations accuses the prophets of Jerusalem of providing false assurances of peace, misleading the people and contributing to their complacency. Lamentations 2:14. Question 13. How does the author of Lamentations describe the condition of the temple? A. Unscathed and intact. B. Desecrated and ruined. C. Converted into a palace. D. Relocated. Answer B. Desecrated and ruined. The temple, once Jerusalem's pride, is described as desecrated and lying in ruins, symbolizing the spiritual and cultural devastation of the city. Lamentations 2-7. Question 14. What emotional response is repeatedly expressed throughout Lamentations? A. Joy and satisfaction. B. Indifference and detachment. C. Anger and vengeance. D. Grief and sorrow. Answer D. Grief and sorrow. The dominant emotional response throughout Lamentations is intense grief and sorrow, reflecting the profound loss and devastation experienced by the inhabitants of Jerusalem. Question 15. What appeal does Lamentations make to God at the end of the book? A. For vengeance on their enemies. B. For the restoration of Jerusalem. C. For the end of the world. D. For the relocation of the people. Answer B. For the restoration of Jerusalem. At the end of Lamentations, there is a poignant appeal to God for the restoration of Jerusalem, reflecting a hope for renewal and divine compassion despite the city's immense suffering. Lamentations 5:21. Question 16. How is the theme of hope portrayed in the midst of despair in Lamentations? A. By promises of immediate prosperity. B. Through the eventual renewal of Jerusalem. C. As unattainable. D. Through military victory. Answer B. Through the eventual renewal of Jerusalem. Despite profound despair, Lamentations holds out hope for the eventual renewal and restoration of Jerusalem, underscoring a belief in God's enduring mercy and the possibility of redemption. Lamentations 3:21-24. This I recall to my mind, therefore have I hope. Question 17. What metaphor is used to describe Jerusalem's desolation in Lamentations? A. A deserted battlefield. B. An empty vineyard. C. A widow. D. A lost child. Answer: C. A widow. Jerusalem is poetically described as a widow in Lamentations, a metaphor emphasizing her loneliness, abandonment, and mourning after the city's destruction. Lamentations 1-1. Question 18. How does Lamentations reflect on the relationship between sin and suffering? A. Dismisses it as irrelevant. B. Claims there is no correlation. C. Depicts suffering as a direct consequence of sin. D. Suggests suffering is random. Answer: C. Depicts suffering as a direct consequence of sin. Lamentations reflects deeply on sin as a cause of suffering, presenting the city's destruction as a direct result of this people's transgressions against God. Lamentations 1-5. Question 19. In which ways does Lamentations describe the suffering of women and children? A. As unaffected by the city's downfall. B. As disproportionately severe. C. As mildly inconvenient. D. As largely exaggerated. Answer: B. As disproportionately severe. The suffering of women and children is described in graphic detail in Lamentations, emphasizing the severe impact of the siege and destruction on the most vulnerable members of society. Lamentations 2:10-12. Question 20. What does Lamentations say about the endurance of God's covenant? A. It has been permanently broken. B. It endures despite the people's unfaithfulness. C. It is dependent on the people's actions. D. It is rarely mentioned. Answer: B. It endures despite the people's unfaithfulness. Lamentations affirms that despite the severe judgment, God's covenantal relationship with his people endures, implying a foundational hope for future restoration. Lamentations 3:31-33. Question 21. How does Lamentations express the loneliness and abandonment felt by Jerusalem? A. Through vivid celebrations. B. By ignoring these emotions. C. Through stark imagery of isolation and desolation. D. By depicting large gatherings. Answer: C. Through stark imagery of isolation and desolation. The book uses vivid imagery of isolation, abandonment, and desolation to express the deep loneliness felt by Jerusalem after its fall. Lamentations 1-1-2. Question 22. What comparison does Lamentations make about the past and present state of Jerusalem? A. No significant changes are noted. B. The city is better off now. C. The past glory contrasts with the current misery. D. The city has always been in misery. Answer: C. The past glory contrasts with the current misery. Lamentations starkly contrasts Jerusalem's former splendor and status as a cultural and religious center with its present state of ruin and desolation. Lamentations 1-6-7. Question 23. How is God's wrath depicted in Lamentations? A. As non-existent. B. As mild and forgiving. C. As severe and devastating. D. As inconsistent. Answer: C. As severe and devastating. God's wrath is depicted as severe and devastating, directly linked to the catastrophic destruction of Jerusalem as a just response to the people's sins. Lamentations 2-1-8. Question 24. What are the consequences of disobedience as outlined in Lamentations? A. Minor inconveniences. B. Wealth and prosperity. C. Severe punishment and suffering. D. General indifference. Answer: C. Severe punishment and suffering. The consequences of disobedience, as outlined in Lamentations, include severe punishment and suffering, underscoring the devastating ought comes of turning away from God's laws. Lamentations 4:13-14. Question 25. How does Lamentations address the theme of divine justice? A. By denying its existence. B. By highlighting its harshness. C. By questioning its fairness. D. By affirming its righteousness and inevitability. Answer D. By affirming its righteousness and inevitability. Lamentations addresses divine justice as righteous and inevitable, presenting the destruction of Jerusalem as a just act in response to the city's and the people's moral failures. Lamentations 1:18. Question 26. What form of prayer is prominent in Lamentations? A. Prayers of thanksgiving. B. Prayers of lamentation and plea for mercy. C. Prayers of celebration. D. Prayers for enemies. Answer B. Prayers of lamentation and plea for mercy. The prayers in Lamentations are characterized by lamentation and pleas for mercy, reflecting the book's overall tone of mourning and seeking God's compassion. Lamentations 2:18-19. Question 27. How does the structure of Lamentations contribute to its overall message? A. It is random and unorganized. B. It follows a chronological timeline. C. It uses acrostic patterns to underscore completeness of grief. D. It lacks any coherent structure. Answer C. It uses acrostic patterns to underscore completeness of grief. The acrostic structure of Lamentations, with chapters organized around the Hebrew alphabet, underscores the completeness and depth of the grief and sorrow expressed, notably in chapters 1, 2, and 4. Question 28. What does Lamentations say about the nation's leaders during the crisis? A. They were effective and wise. B. They led the nation to prosperity. C. They were blind and ineffective. D. They were absent. Answer C. They were blind and ineffective. Lamentations criticizes the nation's leaders as blind and ineffective, contributing to the city's downfall through their poor leadership and failure to heed prophetic warnings. Lamentations 4:13-16. Question 29. How is the relationship between God and Jerusalem personified in Lamentations? A. As a business transaction. B. As a teacher-student dynamic. C. As a spurned lover. D. As a distant ruler. Answer C. As a spurned lover. The relationship is personified as that of a spurned lover, with Jerusalem portrayed as an unfaithful partner experiencing the consequences of abandoning the covenant with God. Lamentations 1-2. Question 30. What lesson does Lamentations teach about resilience in the face of destruction? A. Resilience is futile. B. Resilience can lead to restoration and renewal. C. Destruction is final. D. Resilience is unnecessary. Answer B. Resilience can lead to restoration and renewal. Lamentations teaches that resilience in the face of destruction can lead to spiritual renewal and eventual restoration, emphasizing hope and faith in God's mercy despite severe trials. Lamentations 3:21-24.